We are looking at question number 3, which is about the poem This Winter Coming by Karen Press. I hope that you've had a chance to read through the poem and read through the questions and try to do them. Remember that the poem is about the hardships experienced by people during apartheid times, and that winter is a metaphor for hard times. We are just going to look at questions and interpreting the questions. So we're looking at words that you might not understand in the questions. Get to know the word melancholic. It means sad, and that is referring to the tone. So I have said there the tone is the feeling of the poem, but really it is the feeling of the speaker in the poem. How are they feeling about what they are describing? You must be able to discuss the tone of all of your poems. It's a very important aspect of poetry. Know how the tone changes from stanza to stanza. Sometimes it's the tone is not the same throughout the entire poem. You are asked to explain the effectiveness of a metaphor. I want you to refer back to my lesson on how to explain the effectiveness of a figure of speech. Follow the steps. I have given you steps to follow to make it easy so that you can get a full 3 marks, or if not the 3 marks, at least get some marks. So please use that approach. In one of the questions, you are being asked to contrast. So when you are contrasting, you are finding the differences. When you compare, you are finding the similarities. In any question where you are discussing a contrast, make sure that you show both sides. You're going to show maybe the negative side and the positive side, the bad side and the good side. So contrast, you must show what it was like before, what it was like afterwards. Make sure that you show those two sides. If you see the word image in a question, I want you to check on whether there is a figure of speech. Right, so please have a look at the questions and read very carefully through the answers. In this answer, they are talking about literal and figurative. So figurative meaning is often the hidden meaning, or it could be a figure of speech. It's not the obvious meaning. 3.2, explain the effectiveness of the metaphors. So please know how to do that. Follow that 3-step approach. Very important to keep on underlining the keywords in the question and respond to the keywords. So please note that this question is asking about the in this question they are asking you immediately you must look for your figure of speech. Please remember a rhetorical lines and make notes is often used to make you think about something. What is being compared and why is this effective? And to make you think about it. So once again, you just apply that 3-step approach to answering your figure of speech questions. Question 4 is about the shipwreck. You can refer to my teaching video on the shipwreck where everything is taught in a lot of detail. So the use of sounds in the poem is really important. So 4.2 is asking about the word bonnie. That is an old English word. Bonnie implies loved and good people. So please make sure that you have in-depth knowledge about that word and what it means. 4.3 is asking about alliteration. So it is a given. Remember, that alliteration you must know your sound devices very well. The function of alliteration, you need to revise them, know exactly what alliteration is, what assonance is, what onomatopoeia is. And usually when alliteration is used, it is to emphasize something in the poem. In this question, it will be very important for you to highlight your keywords because they are asking you about the structure as well as about the central message of the poem. And when you are asked about structure, the first thing you check, is this a sonnet? If it's not a sonnet, then you start looking for whether this is a free verse poem or is there a structure to the poem. Does it have a regular rhyme scheme? Does it have 4-line stanzas, for example, that can make it sound almost like a ballad? So go back to your notes on structure and make sure that you know the structure of all of your poems. That word pathos means so this sadness. Part of the answer, they mention rhetorical questions. Anaphora is another term. You know what a rhetorical question is. You need to know anaphora is and a rhetorical question always makes you think about a particular issue. And anaphora is the use of, it's just another word for repetition. All right, so finally, the unseen poem. Please remember question that the unseen poem is a compulsory absolutely question. Compulsory. You must not leave it out. So question 5. If you look at 5.2, they are asking about mood. When we are discussing mood, it is very similar to tone, and because it refers to mood, emotion. When I ask you about the mood, and you can use the same words that you use to describe the same words that you use to describe tone. Remember that it's really when you're talking about the mood or tone, you are normally going to, it's either going to be negative or it's going to be positive. So please have some words in your word bank to describe a negative tone or to describe a positive tone. So make sure that you, before you listen to this lesson, you should have done the paper and tried to write the questions and then compare your answers to the memo. The rhythm of the poem is always important. So here is a tone question, comment on the tone. That is a 3-mark question. So okay, so they're asking you again to comment on the 3 points to your answer. So remember, when you're talking about tone, it's going to be either a positive tone or a negative tone. Please get some words in your vocabulary to describe positive tones and to describe negative tones. And if you don't know what word to use, you can always use the words positive or negative.